तो वेलकम टू द सेशन। हमने लास्ट टाइम तक पढ़ा था पेज 55 ऑफ द बुक। दिस वाज अप्रोक्सीमेटली जो पुरानी ई बुक आप यूज कर रहे हैं उसका पेज 40 के आसपास होना चाहिए। नॉट एंटायरली श्योर लेकिन करीब करीब उतना उस पे होगा वो। तो हमने व्हाट वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट, यू सी दिस दिस बुक इज अबाउट द बॉडीज, man and his bodies. Now man, of course, we understand here is not the, not the person but the soul that we are talking about. When we talk about the true man, it means we are talking about the soul. अब प्रश्न ये है कि हम तो सोल हैं, फिर हम why are we interested in knowing about the bodies, right? So it's a thing to be, we should have this clarity कि ये क्यों ऐसी किताब क्यों पढ़ने की आवश्यकता है, क्यों हमें शरीर के बारे में जानने की आवश्यकता है. So in short one can say that yes, I am the soul, but my taking birth means that I have, there is a plan for this birth. This birth means that there are some bodies that are associated in this birth, and those are my vehicles for evolution in this birth. माने जो भी मेरा विकास होना है, आध्यात्मिक विकास होना है इस जीवन में, उसके लिए मेरा माध्यम ये शरीर ही है. मैं जो जीवन को, संसार को एक्सपीरियंस करता हूँ, एंड दैट एक्सपीरियंस इज नेसेसरी बिकॉज फॉर आवर एवोल्यूशन. विदाउट दैट वी कैन नॉट इवॉल्व. So for that the bodies are necessary. And what we are being told in this book is what are these bodies and how to utilize them or how to shape them so that they help in our spiritual progress and not hinder. क्योंकि ये हम देख रहे हैं कि ये शरीर हेल्प भी कर सकते हैं, हिंडर भी कर सकते हैं. So how to approach them, how to handle them, how to treat them so that they help but do not hinder. ठीक है जी. एंड आई कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट जो हमने लास्ट सेक्शन पढ़ा था कि वेल फॉर्म्ड एस्ट्रल बॉडी मीन्स, एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सो आई वाज टेल आई कीप रेफरिंग टू दिस बुक कॉल्ड मैन एंड हिज बॉडीज, आई एम सॉरी, मैन विजिबल इनविजिबल बाय लेड बीटर. तो आपको उसमें से कुछ इमेजेस उठा के मैं दिखा रहा हूँ जस्ट टू शो, जो इन्होंने लास्ट पैराग्राफ में बात की थी. Well formed astral body means that a man has reached a fairly high level of intellectual culture. ये this is actually beautifully illustrated in a book by Leadbeater जिसका नाम है Man Visible Invisible. आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं. ये स्लाइड जो है ये एक्चुअली बनाई हुई है. इसमें कंप्लीटली अनडेवलप्ड पर्सन, उसकी कॉजल बॉडी एक वेरी हाईली डेवलप्ड क्लेयरवॉयंट को कैसी दिखती है, उसकी मेंटल बॉडी कैसी दिखती है, उसकी एस्ट्रल बॉडी कैसी दिखती है. एंड देन द सेम थ्री बॉडीज फॉर अ नॉर्मल पर्सन. नॉर्मल पर्सन मे बी लाइक वी वर व्हेन वी हैड नॉट स्टार्टेड आर्टिक प्रैक्टिस, है ना. एंड देन अ डेवलप्ड पर्सन, होपफुली व्हाट वी विल बी इन दिस लाइफ टाइम और नेक्स्ट लाइफ टाइम, spiritually developed person. So you can see how each body changes. और इसमें हो सकता है आपको इतना क्लियरली नहीं दिखे, बट इफ यू एक्चुअली टेक द बुक, उसमें उन्होंने पूरे पेज की वो इमेजेस दे रखी है. इट विल बिकम वेरी क्लियर टू यू. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स ही हैज डिस्क्राइब्ड इट आल्सो. मे बी सम डे वी कैन डू दैट बुक स्टडी आल्सो, है ना. ओके अपन आगे पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं. ऑन द प्रिंटेड बुक पेज 55. On the old ebook this should be page 39, but as I was saying, Ria has made the effort to modify an ebook so that the page numbers match with the printed book. उसमें नेक्स्ट सेशन से प्लीज उसी को यूज कीजिएगा अगर आप ई बुक यूज कर रहे हैं तो. Okay, page 55. So let's start reading in the middle of page 55. As regards the important question of its improvement. Its improvement, kiska improvement? Astral body. Right now the chapter is astral body. It must be remembered that this hinges on the purification and development of the mind. Now the word the mind, ये बड़ा elastic word है. इसको अलग अलग संदर्भ में, अलग अलग कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इट इज यूज्ड टू मीन डिफरेंट थिंग्स. Here, I think what it means is the combination of the emotions and mind. क्या बोलते हैं, thought forms. माने our emotions and our thoughts. So उसका जो mechanism है उसको यहाँ पे that is being called the mind here, in my opinion. And you see, this is important to understand that the mind is what separates us from the animals. जो हिंदी या संस्कृत का शब्द है मनुष्य, it comes from manas. Manas means the mind. So it is our mind that separates us from the animals. So the mind becomes the important faculty, and actually, I'm sure through your theosophy studies and so on, you are already familiar that humans have individual souls, animals have group souls, correct? And why we are trusted with the individual souls is because we have a mind which we are supposed to develop, and which is supposed to help us make our life easier, and which is supposed to help us in our spiritual progress. Right? Okay, आगे चलते हैं. The astral body is peculiarly susceptible to thought impressions. For astral matter responds more rapidly than physical to every impulse from the world of mind. You see, it is again related to, you remember, seven planes of consciousness. तो हर प्लेन में पार्टिकल्स की डेंसिटी बदल जाती है. आप यू कैन से सूक्ष्मता और यू कैन से डेंसिटी. नाउ द मोर डेंस द पार्टिकल, the less is the influence on it of the lighter particles. आप समझ रहे हैं? So what happens is that the mental body is more subtle particles than the astral body. So what is happening is those particles are interpenetrating. So supposing these are two astral particles, there are many mental particles inside that. And this whole set, many of these, is between two physical particles, and those are denser, heavier, भारी है ये. तो ये इसको हिलाने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन ये जब हिलते हैं तो ये इसको इतना ज्यादा नहीं हिला पाते. ऑलराइट, इज दैट क्लियर? आई होप सब थोड़ा सिरविर हिला दीजिए तो मुझे लगेगा कि हाँ कुछ समझ में आ रहा है. ओके, ऑलराइट. तो एंड इफ यू ऑल्सो इफ यू रिमेंबर कि हमने पीछे के पन्नों में पढ़ा था कि एक हमें सेंसेशंस कैसे मिलते हैं. सो फिजिकल बॉडी, यू नो दी, जो हमारी इंद्रियां हैं, आवर सेंस sensory abilities are in the physical body, but those only, they are only like machines. They pick up and pass on the signal to the astral body. वो उसको आगे माइंड को पास करती है. वहां पे वो, that is where it is recognized. Now, again, in the same paragraph, there is this term called elemental essence, forms composed of elemental essence. Now, here I refer you to psychotherapy. You remember elemental word usme aaya tha? So, here we are talking about the same thing. We are talking about things that are available in nature on the astral plane. You know? Also, Master says, and sorry, not Master, this is any Besant. तो आगे next एक दो line आगे, from which shapes continually emerge and into which they again disappear. Now, this is something that we don't see on the physical plane. Physical plane पे जो भी shapes होती हैं वो काफी स्थिर होती हैं. Right? They don't change so easily. They require a lot of force or pressure or heat. But if you take something and you melt it, then the shape will change. Or if you hit it very hard, then shape will change. Otherwise, normally shape doesn't change. But what she's telling us is on the astral plane, जो elemental essences हैं, इनकी shape फटाफट rapidly बदलती रहती है. Why? Again, you have to think जो सटलर लेवल्स है, एट द सटलर लेवल्स, एट द हायर लेवल्स, द particles are subtler, they are more dynamic, they are more fluidic, they are less stable. Just to simple example, up you'll consider ice versus liquid water versus steam. Which is more stable in shape? The ice. Once it is formed, unless you melt it and then it becomes water and then it takes the shape of the container. But when it gets converted to steam, then it will just, it will just spread. उसको आप रोक नहीं सकते. You cannot stop it from spreading. And if you go further into science, physics, there is Brownian motion and there are all kinds of theories. Entropy applies and so on. So those particles, जो steam के particles हैं, they are in rapid movement. All right, let's come to the near the end of page 55. See, again, just a reminder, I am not reading this, we are not doing this book study line by line, word by word. I'm from my own, I'm just picking and choosing things. Lekin agar if you want something to be picked up and discussed, or you have a question, please feel free to ask me. Looking carefully, we may see that currents of thought thrill means cause vibration in this astral matter, that strong thoughts take a covering of it and persist as entities for a long time, while weak thoughts clothe themselves feebly and flicker out again. So, this is again something we know from psychotherapy. And again, if you have done Kriya Shakti, the principle of Kriya Shakti is to create powerful thought forms and to pack them with emotional energy. अगर आप क्रिया शक्ति प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, think about the Kriya Shakti practice. That is what it does. We take a thought form and we pack it with emotional energy and we pack it with etheric energy. Think about your practice of Kriya Shakti. Saroji, आपने किया है? You have done Kriya Shakti? So that is what we do. And that is where the thought form can become so powerful that it causes manifestation in the physical world. And this is later what she is talking about. I'm not going to read a lot here, but ये बता रहे हैं कि thoughts, whether internal or external, that means the thoughts I am producing or thoughts other people are producing and that are coming to my system or to my bodies, they influence my astral body. And my thoughts will also influence. For example, Ria is thinking something and thinking about me, that thought is coming to me, that will also cause vibrations in my astral body. Next, she talks about colors. She says colors depend on the nature of the person, the kind of passions. So there's a difference between anger, anxious, anxiety, fear, loving energy, loving thought form, and so on. So depending on the thought form, so here's a slide from some images from the Pranic Psychic Self-Defense book by Master Choa. So if you can see the shapes and the colors, how much variation there is depending on the nature of the thought. जिस प्रकार का विचार है, अलग अलग प्रकार के विचार, उनकी शेप और उनके कलर्स में कितना फर्क आ जाता है. Yeah. Then later she talks about the term kama. On page 56 near the end, she talks about the kamic aura or kama, the desire body. So we won't get into a lot of details here, but this is a, some people talk about the kamamaya kosha, which to us we can just take as the lower astral plane. So you remember astral plane, 7 subplanes. So the lower ones of them we can call the kamic, because those lower passions or lower emotions are mostly full of passions, full of what we can call animal passions, very closely related to the senses. अपने सेंसेस को सेटिस्फाई करने से संबंधित जो इमोशंस हैं. So for example, hunger and sex drive and this and that, ये सब they are related to that. Now later she is also talking about the interaction or the close association between the astral body and its influence on the physical body. And as I think as healers, we already know that many of our illnesses are what we call psychosomatic. Psychosomatic means they are originating from our thoughts and emotions, from our psyche. Yeah. Okay, let's come to page 57. If his, somewhere in the middle of page 57, this on the old ebook is page 42. If his thoughts are high and noble, they demand correspondingly finer astral matter. And we trace this action on the astral body in its loss of the grosser and denser particles from each subplane and its gain of the finer and rarer kinds. The astral body of a man whose thoughts are low and animal is gross, thick, dense, and dark in color, often so dense that the outline of the physical body is almost lost in it. Whereas that of an advanced man is fine, clear, luminous, and bright in color, a really beautiful object. So, a few minutes ago, the slides I showed you from Man Visible, Invisible, just refer to them. And this point is very clearly illustrated over there. I think one thing to think here is to be grateful to Master Choa for the practice of character development, especially inner reflection, firm resolution. If you recall, what are we doing? We are externalizing, what she is calling the grosser, heavier particles out. We push them out, on the white screen, and then we erase them, externalize them, erase them. And then we do the firm resolution part where we are replacing them with subtler and more refined particles. And you can also see why it takes time for the results to show. It's not like you do it once and your character is, changed. अभी तक मैं झूठ बोल रहा था, अब मैं एकदम से सच बोलने लगा. It's not like that. Slowly, 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 those particles will change. Yeah. All right, let's go on. Same page, next paragraph. By thinking nobly, then we purify the astral body, even without consciously working towards that end. And be it remembered that this inner working exercises a potent influence on the thoughts that are attracted from without to the astral body. A body which is made by its owner to respond habitually to evil thoughts acts as a magnet to similar thought forms in its vicinity. Whereas a pure astral body acts on such thoughts with a repulsive energy, that means it repels, and attracts to itself thought forms composed of matter congruous with its own. Congruous means compatible, या उसी wavelength के जो है या उसी type के जो है. So this is a very important, scientific principle to understand. And Master actually has simplified this into a very simple saying. He says, like energies attract, unlike energies repel. है ना? उसको इन्होंने थोड़ा लंबे तरीके से समझाया है. And this is what I don't know if you have been practicing long enough to see this, but you will see that it makes a difference. And what happens is that a few years into your arhatic practice, you start realizing that you don't enjoy the company of people you used to enjoy so much earlier. And slowly the people you want to be in the company of, आपकी जो संगत है वो धीरे धीरे बदलने लगती है. Slowly the company you want to keep, that starts to change. I don't know if you have noticed this or not. I have certainly noticed this. Now there is a, Master says, where did he say that? Yeah, just before what I read, एक लाइन देखेंगे आप. The lower passions have been dominated and the selective action of the mind has refined the astral matter. दिखा आपको in the book? You can see that? Okay. Now to note the term selective action. What we are being told is that we have choice. We are not necessarily slaves of the mind. We have will, we have free will. We can choose what thought we want to keep, what emotions we want to generate. So it is very important to recognize what kind of thoughts and emotions I'm having, to become aware and to practice consciously, the more refined sort of thoughts and emotions being in our mind constantly or as much as possible. है ना? And we know that yes, we will slip up, कभी गलती होगी, it's okay. Then the inner reflection, firm resolution practice comes in. You erase, that tendency is still there, still some particles are there, erase, replace. Do it over time, खत्म हो जाएगा. And you see, what we have to understand also is, so in this way, a sort of either you can call it a virtuous cycle. मतलब हम चाहें तो इसको vicious cycle बना सकते हैं. Nakaratmak vichar, unwholesome thoughts, they attract more unwholesome thoughts, which cause more unwholesome thoughts, which lead to more unwholesome actions and thoughts. So we can make it a vicious circle or we can make it a virtuous cycle. Nobler thoughts leading to attracting more refined thoughts, being, so like that. Or you can think of it as a spiral. As you think consciously, force yourself to think nobler thoughts, it attracts more refined particles, which helps you think more nobler thoughts, and it goes on like that. So जैसे भी आप इसको समझना चाहें, वर्चुअस साइकिल या स्पाइरलिंग इफेक्ट, है ना? All right, let's read now on page 59. This is page 43 in the old ebook. If unwisely careless about the physical, we build into our dense bodies solid particles of an impure kind, we attract to ourselves the corresponding impure kind of what we will call the solid astral. नहीं, ये solid astral इसलिए बोल रहे हैं क्योंकि in the astral plane, the seven subplanes, this is the lowermost. Like in the physical plane, if you remember, the lowermost subplane was called the solid. So corresponding to that. On the other hand, as we build into our dense bodies solid particles of purer type, we attract the correspondingly purer type of solid astral matter. As we carry on the purification of the physical body by feeding it on clean food and drink, and by excluding from our diet the polluting blood of animals, alcohol, and other things that are foul and degrading, we also begin to purify the astral vehicle and take from the astral world more delicate and finer materials for its construction. The effect of this is not only important as regards the present earth life, but it has a distinct bearing also on the post-mortem state. Post-mortem state matlab hua after the physical body will die, tab ki state. On our condition in the astral world and on the kind of body we shall have in the next life upon earth. I hope this is kind of straightforward. The point being made here is that physical body also plays a part. So the purity of the physical body, and this I think is something that the Jain community really understands. So they pay a lot of attention to sattvic food and avoiding tamasic and rajasic food and so on. So that also helps. But again, I would remind you of what Master has said. What comes out of the mind and the mouth is more important than what goes in. चलिए आगे चलते हैं. So page, in the next two pages, she's talking about elementals, which we have studied in the psychotherapy class, and she introduces a term called elementaries. ठीक है जी? And what I think it reminds us, especially the first para on page 61, is the importance and the role and importance of the protective web, and how to use, and why master has taught us shields, because we cannot control the environment, but we can shield ourselves from it. Yeah. So if you haven't read the psychic self-defense book or haven't done the course, please do that as soon as possible. Okay, page 61. Um, this is page 44 on the old ebook. Now, of course, the possibilities of the astral body largely depend on the nature of the materials we build into it. I'm just noticing time is up. So I just read this, we'll discuss it next time. As by the process of purification, we make these bodies finer and finer, they cease to vibrate in answer to the lower impulses and begin to respond to the higher influences of the astral world. We are thus making an instrument which, though by its very nature sensitive to influences coming to it from without means external influences, is gradually losing the power of responding to lower vibrations and is taking on the power of responding to the higher. Actually, there's not much to discuss. So this is fine. We can end here. So I hope the point is clear. कि ये, you know, one term being used here, lower. So lower, higher. Again, I refer you to Pranic Psychotherapy book. Master has beautifully explained. Lower emotions or lower thoughts are those which negatively impact our energy body. I'm not saying it verbatim. Master की definition आप पढ़िएगा book में. And higher thought forms are those which improve the quality of the energy body. Yeah. And of course, you are aware of the chakras also. Higher emotions, the heart chakra, the lower emotions, the solar plexus. Lower emotion doesn't mean negative or bad or dirty, but it just means lower. Yeah. So I think good place to stop here.